The two panellists would both be called Tim. Tim Crouch is a theatre maker and performer and writer, and he makes very deceptively simple pieces of theatre which, by continually establishing different levels of reality, including very much ones where the audience are present and shifting continually between them, you end up being immersed in something that's very slick. It's like being immersed inside a hall of mirrors, I liken it to. And they're very challenging, and they often make you be moved by them, kind of like in ways that I've rarely been moved in a theatre. Tim Wright is like the godfather of kind of like sort of a kind of interactive play storytelling within this country, like in my opinion, and has been sort of for years has been kind of exploring like how to draw people into kind of like playful realities, clever use of technology in a way that like I totally would like aspire like my work and Cohen's work to also kind of be. I think both of them are provocateurs as well, and I think the challenge can like must always be kind of a provocation. And the interesting question for me is, you can do all this great stuff, brilliant, why are you doing it? What's important about it? How does it move you or the audience, and what can we learn about ourselves and the world from this, more than just a bit like cool gadgets? So my experience of immersive technology is kind of twofold. One, making play, and anything that kind of uses the imagination, can conjure the imagination, so that I can see a layer over the world and feel immersed in this kind of playful reality, regardless of any technology, and whatever that might be. Often using sound, audio for that, and then also again an audio game, Papa Sangre, and other games that are kind of coming out in that field, which is a game for the iPhone, which conjures a world in your imagination through using kind of binaural sound, and you're wearing headphones, and it means you are absolutely in it, and physically, viscerally, you feel that I am in this dark room being chased by monsters, and it makes you go like that. The interesting thing will come sort of partly through better responsivity. And in many ways, you know, the Papa Sangre engine, like the game engine for that, which like sort of plays sounds, it was incredibly difficult to build. Took us like a year longer than we thought, because actually when we started, the iPhone wasn't capable of doing it. It's only when the iPhone 4 and then some upgrades came in that the proper stuff kind of actually sort of then happened. It's responsivity that is, in a way, the biggest kind of like crunch of like processing capacity. So that, I'd be just very interested to see how that kind of like develops. Tends to be like a tendency to kind of push things towards a kind of like quasi-realistic, photorealistic, and that's kind of seen as like the aspiration. But we all know about the uncanny valley. Basically, the uncanny valley is this kind of sort of weird, like, the closer you get to something being real, actually you become more aware of the differences. It starts to feel kind of uncanny. So to see, like, I could be more, if there was a waxwork of you here, I would be slightly unnerved by that, because dolls freak me out. Then in a way that, you know, if there was a kind of like a cuddly toy version of Kate, then that's fine, because it's not attempting to be the same as. It's sort of like, and the differences are kind of clear. So in some ways, I kind of wonder whether it's kind of it's sort of a playful, theatrical, and I'm a theatre maker as well. Theatrical representations of the world, like, will be, and different conventions of that will be established away from just sort of like a kind of a realistic thing. I mean, in the same way that kind of what happened with art, I guess. I mean, that, like, making big sweeping statements in the morning. You said like that the idea that it's all about making something that looks exactly like the world. Maybe it won't be like that. That will be the interesting thing. I'm gonna pick a sound artist called Duncan Speakman, and actually another sound artist, Melanie Wilson, like both of whom I kind of work with. Duncan does these things called subtle mobs, where a group of audience download an MP3 in advance and then kind of turn up in a particular location at a particular time, press play roughly simultaneously, and then something kind of unfolds through that. I mean, you know, and other people do sort of like make work like that. I mean, Coney itself makes work like that, but it's I like with Duncan's work, because he's a composer as well, that they're very cinematic, they're very lush, and you kind of get, you know, people talk about the city as a sort of like as a stage, kind of like all of these things, and I think he, by really kind of going for sort of like, you know, kind of the kind of all, you know, kind of orchestral cinematic music, then it kind of the feelings you get then sort of like with his stuff is like in the city is like similarly sort of like epic, and that's really nice, and he's a good guy.